content here today. I'm gonna take a break from talking about all of these international booker books, and time to talk about some other forms of entertainment. Unfortunately, I am a gamer.
I fucking hate the fucking eggs! Fuck!
And given that gaming is just such an intellectual thing to do, I've gathered up some of my favorite story-based video games that I thought might appeal to bookish people who might watch this channel, that they can peruse at their leisure. These are my 4 favorite games that are kind of RPG, kind of based in narrative. All 4 of these games are games that I've played to death and I absolutely love, and I love them for their narrative qualities, so if you're the kind of person who likes to read a book or something and wants to get into gaming, I recommend starting with some of these, honestly. And then when the Steam sales happen and these games go down to about $5 each, I really recommend picking them up. They're all bangers, so let's roll into it.
Is this some sort of peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand?
When people talk about hidden gem games, this is the one I tend to recommend. In Pentiment, you play as an artist from medieval times as he is tasked with solving 3 very similar murders over a long period of time. The game takes place around an abbey and the nearby poor village, and the game is made with this 2D, Pop Tropica style animation, with a style reminiscent of old tapestries. The way you solve the mystery is by interacting with all of these very different, very characterful characters, and at the end of each chapter you have to choose someone to be murdered by the town, even though you know you're probably in the wrong, and these choices really affect the storytelling of the game. The game is more or less about guilt. The arc of this main character is really beautiful and sad, and the narrative takes a shift in the 3rd act that I loved and was not expecting. The game is full of great moments, like when you make out with the nun, or punch one of the priests and so on, but it's all built around this central character and his sense of guilt. That's what the game is about. The game looks absolutely beautiful, and it has just the right amount of constraint around it. There are time limits and you can't talk to everyone, and you sometimes get locked off from certain places. Sometimes you'll know you've missed something and you can't fix it. Sometimes you'll know if you chose a different dialogue option, something different would happen. But it keeps you honest and it keeps the game tense. There's some moments in the back half of the game where certain characters get threatened, or perhaps don't make it out. And those are always surprising moments where you go, no, I really like that guy, bring him back here. So not only does it have this really stylish and perhaps alienating art design to some people, but it's also really well structured to keep you engaged in it. I will say that by the time the real murderer is revealed, you'll have solved the mystery hours beforehand if you're paying attention. But at the end of the day, it's less about the mystery and more about evoking this time and place with this really imaginative sense of interaction and design. The game is incredibly well researched, and it's really ambitious to me. It's perhaps the best game from Obsidian, whose Pillars of Eternity games I also really love. The game is twisty, it has lots of historical detail, it's beautiful, and it's really, really unique. I love it, play it, you won't regret it.
Space!
When I was in high school, this was the game. My friends and I played this shit to death. I have all of the achievements, even the ones that are basically impossible. I can't not recommend this game. In this game, you play as Ship, and you have to make it to Rebel Base and beat big fucking scary Rebel Ship. It's a very simple game. Along the way, you meet people, you get new crewmates, you add new weapons. The structure is very, very simple. It's a very common roguelike structure for this game, but it's improved by its variety, its writing, the space setting, because space is cool. If you're too slow, you get fucked by this incoming wave of rebel assholes, so there's constraint there. There's many different ways you can win in any given situation. If you're fighting an enemy, you can remove all the oxygen from its ship, you can just destroy it, you can send your crew over to fight them with fists. There are heaps of different ways to win in a fight, but sometimes you can also talk your way out of it, sometimes you can escape, and sometimes there are other conditions that unlock secrets in the game. Sometimes there'll just be nothing, or sometimes you'll have to send your crew over to defeat giant alien spiders, and then one of them dies for no reason and you rage for about 10 minutes. It's just about the most addictive game ever made, so don't play it if you value your time. If you don't value your time, which you clearly don't because you're watching me, then smoke this shit, my brother.
There are no rules, man, we're lost.
80 days, baby! Yes! This has to be the most underrated game ever fucking made. This game is even simpler than any of the other ones I'm going to talk about. In this game, you have to go around the world in 80 days. That's it. You play as Passepartout, and you have Phileas Fogg as a condescending NPC to your left, and you have to make it around the world by any means necessary. Sell your clothes, sell your kidneys, fucking do some gambling, steal, whatever, but just make it around the world. The way this game works is you play it once and you go, well, that was fun, and then you play it a second time and you're like, wow, I didn't see the same single line of dialogue or same circumstance happen again. Nothing repeated. And then you play it for a third time and you go, wow, not only did I not see the same shit again, but I think I might have found the edge of a mystery that I didn't get the chance to solve. And then all of a sudden you've sunk 50 hours into the game. There are so many mysteries and secrets and unique ways to play this game. There's one moment where you can solve a murder crossing the Atlantic. There's one where there's this like Black Rose woman thief, and that goes over multiple playthroughs. There's one where you can try to speedrun the 80 days by crossing the Arctic Circle, and you have this gay romance, but there's this also like white knuckle thriller where you have to try and keep Phileas Fogg alive while he's dying of cold. It's so awesome. Underneath all of this game is this kind of steampunk rebellion going on, and on every continent there's some overarching issue or conflict that you see in different ways in different cities depending on where you go. For example, if you run out of money in one city, you'll see a different side to that city, but if you're flush with cash, you'll stay in a nice hotel and you won't even notice. You'll also discover things on different playthroughs that change your awareness of a certain city and what's within it. The writing is very sort of interpretable like that. There may not be a single overarching storyline, and you're not working towards some final conclusion in the game, which may stop the game from being my favorite ever. There's not actually a lot compelling you to go back to the game other than uncovering these secrets and these new single game storylines, but there's so much fun shit in this game, and there's just enough actual interaction and choice in the minutiae of the game to stop it from feeling like a visual novel. What a good-ass game this is.
Dead man's penis is average sized.
Everybody's played this game already, but I'll throw my hat in the ring. Disco Elysium is my favorite game, easily. In the game, you play as a detective, and he has to solve a crime, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. If you haven't played it before, go in blind in the story. If you haven't played it before, don't listen to me talk about it and ruin it, just go play it. Every single detail or element in this game is the best of its kind. Best voice acting, best story, best music, holy shit. There's no game I've played with a better sense of location. The game's map, that being the suburb of Martinez in the city of Revachol, is not humongous or anything, but the level of detail is absolutely crazy, and every single character is distinct and plays a role and feels like a product of their environment. And the location is all rendered in this beautiful watercolor style. It's very tasty. It's billed as an RPG, but in this game, instead of deciding to be a gnome or a dwarf or something, you decide to be a nihilist or a communist and shit like that, and all of the dialogue branches are so fucking awesome and funny and revealing. I was so on this game's wavelength in terms of the logic behind the RPG element. It's a totally unique one in my experience because of how small the world is. You're forced to spend the time developing your character sort of internally, philosophically. Develop his pain tolerance or his intuition or his depression or whatever. That's part of it, but you can also develop his like thought processes, his way of responding to things. It's very interesting. I've played it 3 times, and all 3 times while I hit the similar plot beats, the ending was pretty different, and the inter-character dialogue was completely different and very goofy. You could just fuck up everything if you want, just ruin the game and people's lives, just by talking and just by using different philosophies. It's very funny. But at the end, it becomes this really sad metaphor for grief, and I like how limited the world feels, and the main character's limited memory and understanding kind of emphasize the feeling that this is all happening sort of inside his head. It's a game that feels like actual limbo. You feel like you're in some strange middle space when you play it, because of the style and because of the music. The only piece of media I can really compare this game to is like the first season of True Detective, so if you like that, you're gonna fucking love this. Similar to Pentiment, while at the end the mystery element kind of stops mattering, it still has this incredible final act which involves an insect of some kind. I'm not gonna spoil it, but when that came in, that was such a crazy magical moment. I don't want to say too much about the game if you haven't played it, but I will say that if you play this game, it will make all other games seem worse and more underwhelming. This game became my personality for about 6 months, and that's how good it is. So there we are, those were some of my favorite story-based video games. I hope you guys enjoyed, and some of these sounded interesting to you if you haven't heard of them before. We'll be back to International Booker content soon, so thanks for watching, and bye!